Continuing my recap from Shooter Symposium, the first class I took was with Jamie from 1 Minute Out and Chuck Pressberg from Presscheck Consulting. I will link both of them down below in the description. So if you're interested in following them or interested in taking one of their courses, check out the links below and you can see all of that there. Now, this was a combo course for Shooter Symposium. They both do other courses outside of just night vision, but we started at 6 p.m. and we ended at like 2 or 3 in the morning. Started in the classroom and Jamie took us through a lot of excellent technical breakdown of gear, things that are out there, things that he's seen that are coming, things that he's helped develop, a lot of the how, what, and why behind night vision. Now, I can't show that because he asked for us not to show those slides because that's his work that he put in. That's his proprietary, if you want to call it that, information. So if you're interested in seeing some of that, go take his class. From there, we moved to the flat range where they took us through some drills, and you'll get to see most of that here. And I will hop in and break down some of the things that we did, and I tried to recreate some of it here at home to elaborate a little bit further on some of the things that you can see them from the shooter's perspective. But enough of me talking, let's get into the class. Also, I do want to apologize in advance for some of the audio and the focus. First time working with that camera, so sorry. To the video.
And then I would do a rifle press check. And so I'd pull the bolt back and I'd take my gloved finger or ungloved finger and I'd stick it in there and feel for a piece of brass on the casing. I'd let the bolt go forward. I'd tap the charging handle, make sure that the gun had in fact locked again and that I did not let the gun hang out of battery. The late Pat Rogers taught another technique that I really like, and I started trying to incorporate it more, and that is feeling that for the top round. So I've got a loaded 30-round mag. I take my finger, gloved or not, and I feel that the bullet is on the right side of this PMag Gen 3. All right, so I tell myself, right side. Then stick it in the gun, close the fucking bolt, remove the magazine. Put my finger on it, left side. There's nowhere that bullet could have gone but in that fucking gun right now. So I know that it loaded. There are people that are anti-dust cover. I am not anti-dust cover. And for 2 reasons. At night, you bust your ass more. And so if I'm going to do the triple Lindy in a sandy environment with a gun that's running really wet, I want to have that additional protection. And there are people say, well, you know, when you close your dust cover after every time you shoot, you might close your dust cover on a bolt that's locked to the rear. Well, if you didn't feel that recoil impulse, you're fucked up anyway. But if the gun's out of battery, that fucking detent on the inside of your dust cover, the shit that's made out of steel and rusts, that fucker has to go in that detent on the bolt carrier, which, oh, by the way, was made for your thumb on the original M16 when there was no forward assist. And on the HK weapons, they have the same thing. So you stick your thumb in there and you physically force the bolt forward in lieu of a forward assist device. So that gap allows for that clunky thing on the inside of your dust cover to be there. So if your gun is out of battery and that bolt carrier is moved to the rear, when you attempt to shut the dust cover, it's going to crash into your bolt carrier in front of that thumb detent hole. And there you go, red flag that you're out of battery. So between checking my mag, then reinserting, push until it clicks, and then attempting to pull, now there's no way on the first shot after the buzzer you hit me with the pro timer, I am not going to raise this rifle, fire 1 round, and have a PMag fall out. This bitch is in there. And I close the dust cover, that gun's in battery. So I have a fully loaded weapon in the dark that I can do by tactile feel alone without the need of any type of lighting system.
I want to interrupt really quick into the video and say a big thank you to Big Tex Ordnance. This video happened because of them, and they are sponsors of this and all the Shooter Symposium videos. It is because of them I was able to get into Shooter Symposium, and they help take care of all the arrangements for me to be out there and help bring this content to you guys so that you could see some of the training, see some of the things that were going on there. So again, thank you, Big Tex Ordnance. There are links down below. Use those. It helps me, helps the channel, but also it helps them out. We want to show support for them and all they're doing for the gun industry.
I want to be able to hit somebody in a low percentage shot situation and put the bullets right here, and it doesn't matter where I aim. Nobody cares about your gun problems after you fucking tune somebody up and grand jury, district attorney, or whomever investigates your shooting. You're going to be graded by shell casings on the ground and wound tracks and cadavers. How any of that happened is irrelevant. Everything in real life is outcomes based. So I need to do whatever I have to do to put the bullets right here, because anything other than that, I'm potentially in trouble. And I'm trying to stay away from 2 things, the casket and the courtroom. So if I take my laser, B.E. Myers type 1 each, and I put the suppressor right on the X. I turn it on. Look, I am high and right, just like Jamie said in the class. So if back here at 3, I keep the gun at 12 o'clock and I aim right in the middle of the X and fire around. Let me come out of that intensity. Oh, look at that. So I fire a single round with the gun, boop, in the X. I get essentially the exact same offset that Jamie was talking about, but down here. So if I'm going to run around with my gun at 12 o'clock, I have to remember to hold this high and this far over. But if I roll the gun inboard, I can start to bring the laser over bore. And this is kind of a greater amount of rollover for a maul, and not as much, just a slight left-hand bias with a pack. So I can experiment with rolling the gun inboard, and now all I have is a vertical hold, which is exactly the same if you've been drilling in a shoot house as CQB or mechanical offset with your aim point. I've created the same visual thing that I see when I'm shooting my aim point, but I've created it with my laser, so I don't have to remember to hold high right. Indoors, in CQB, especially when I used to be a big button on the LA5 guy, all I had to do is roll the gun over like this. And through consistency, I'm getting the laser over bore. So we will give you guys an opportunity to collect this data. So on the white, 12 o'clock, gun rotated inboard, and completely repeatable. Okay, go back to 5. I'm gonna hold in the same place, see what happens. Look at that. Back to 10. All right, so my first shot was high and my second 2 were low, but they're all still in the X. Back to the 15. I'm looking for mean shot group movement. I'm trying to count out any errant flyers and look at only actual impact. So I had one called out and the rest of them are still in there. So my offset is essentially holding true as we go back. So this allows a high degree of repeatability within CQB distances. Let's go to the 20. Oops, barked one off early. All right, and 25. Chuck's #1 rule of gunfighting. Reload when you want to, not when you have to. Fucking emergency mag changes are for fucking suckers. All right. So I pulled 2 out low right, 3, and 1 out to the left. So out of, if I would have shot 30 shots on that, I would have had a 297. So when you're doing data collection with your guys, you start at 3 and you work back and you let everybody look at their targets between their 5-shot groups. 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 5 shots each is a full 30-round mag. So if you're a 28-round mag guy, you're gonna run out of bullets. Bring all the bullets to the fight, right? But if it's SWAT in service and I want to check and see if my knuckleheads know their offsets or their CQB holds under goggles, we're going to roll out and do this bitch cold from 25 and in, and they're not going to, it's going to take till they're here to realize how incredibly fucked they are. And that's awesome for no notice shaming of individuals to get right. So, guys, let's do this for a mag.
So after Chuck took us through this demo and he showed us about essentially rotating the rifle to create that height over bore with your laser, we then ran through that and we ran it a couple of ways, but then we did a kind of a competition, a top shot, if you will, starting at the 25 and working our way forward so that we couldn't see our hits until we were 3 yards away. I ended up taking top shot in that, so I was super excited about that and super pumped. From there, then we moved on to some positive identification drills where we had to turn and look and see with our night vision before we could engage the targets. And you had to engage these targets. They would call out a different number and you had to turn and find that target. But I'll let you see what that looks like.
Alpha! Oh, blue paint. That is not alpha. Nope. There's your 5 targets. There he is. Remember what Jamie said about sometimes you have to ID before you get the illuminator on them? And what he said about black target versus fucking blue target? Our paint is blue. So
I see that now.
Guys, you err on the side of caution. So make sure you ID the threat.
And we are not kidding. He's not kidding about close the distance. Like, you'll be in the course, corner clear, fuck. Pull me up, boom. Cross coverage, show me your hands. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Fuck, good. And it'll be that far away.
Oh, shit.
Scan, there you go. Face back up range. 3! Two! Juliet! Two! Alpha! Juliet! Alpha! One! One! Let's talk about the center shooter. It's what some of you other guys were doing. So center shooter decided to be at a high ready. So he's here, and then when I would call out the numbers, he would turn and he was coming down and he was short stroking his sector. He struggled to find one every time because it's kicked out just a little bit further than the others, right? The other thing that he was doing is that, you know, I'm not a big high fucking carry guy anyway, but he was going from this position and he wasn't getting the gun out and then mounting it in the shoulder. He was coming down more to almost an under the arm, this is like big army laser shooting. They're trying to move the laser so far away from their emitter, they're losing all of the repeatability of daytime shooting like this. He doesn't have recoil management down here, and so I was watching his lasers recoil and the dwell time until he was back on target, and it was longer than guys that were staying mounted on the gun here. So I'm not gonna, I'm not here to bash the fucking Navy. If you want to be a high ready guy, that's fine, but you've got to mount the gun and be prepared to handle recoil as well, right? So now, hey, Jim, internet, fucking, I don't want anybody to know that I'm a gamer, but for real, in the 10-yard shooting box that is the El Presidente, when we shoot pistol, we load in the box here as a righty so that we could turn, snatch the gun, and step into the box, and we don't default by stepping too far. So we know where we want to go, and we know the direction that we want to go, and we turn on the holster because it's easier to have the gun as a pivot point. This goes back to our thigh holster days. If I go for the gun as a righty and I turn this way, the gun is in free flight strapped to my leg as I'm going around to the outside. But with the rifle, look the way this bitch is facing in a low ready situation. So I should absolutely, with a rifle, be turning so I could drive this motherfucker up onto target. I have to turn so much further to get the carbine into the fight when I'm turning in the same direction that I turn for pistol. That's all about human efficiency and shaving hundredths off the clock. I'm not a gamer.
This being crawl, walk, run, right? The run being in a shoot house, clearing and discriminating against paper targets, right? Being able to come in and move. Think about that, right? When I get to that point, when I come into a room to discriminate targets, am I coming into that room and my laser automatically comes on? No. Why is my laser on? I'm not ready to engage a target. I haven't seen a threat in my zone. And like we see, what is the laser doing if we turn that on first? Okay, it's fucking with our vision. It's flooding out what's down here. A couple guys were turning, okay, especially the middle. That's why he was having a hard time finding his target, is as soon as he came around, his laser's already on. Like, hey, I'm fucking shooting, I'm getting ahead of the power curve, my laser's on, but now he can't ID his threat because it's washed everything out. All right, if you look at the targets that are downrange, right now you can read every number, okay? Once I find my threat, then it's part of the process of laser comes on, weapon goes on fire, so that now I can engage that threat. Once I'm done with that threat, then weapon goes on safe, laser comes off, I'm scanning looking for another threat, right? I have to continue clearing my primary sector, then come back and clear my secondary. So if you come around immediately with that laser on, so somebody, right, shine your laser down there on the targets right now. Watch what happens. Laser comes on, whoa, it's Vulcan. All of a sudden, it's very hard to see which one's the threat, which target am I supposed to be discriminating against. But if I leave it off, I come around, now I have to scan, ID it, then laser comes on, weapon goes on fire, engage, then come off. All right? Don't get ahead of the power curve. Don't put the cart before the horse. This is the crawl portion. This is one of the lessons we want you to learn from this, is the engagement of the laser, when to turn it on, when not to have it on. All right? Go back and forth. Fire, laser, laser's off as weapon goes on safe. Okay? Manipulation.
Try to go laser off during... You're living your life 40 degrees at a time. If you turn like an apex predator and identify the next thing and put it in the middle, you now only have 20 degrees of reaction time to see your laser and slow that bitch down. So once you identify the guy, if you're driving from left to right and you know your laser is following your nods, you can identify the dude and then bracket him in the edge to give you the maximum amount of night vision tube in the direction you know your laser's coming from. When you drive to the left and you know your laser's going to be coming from the right, you identify the guy and you're naturally going to put him in the middle, and then you just scoot the nods over to meet your laser as it's coming to target, and it'll give you better reaction time to decelerate so that you don't overdrive. For those of you that are old enough to have gone to gym class, the shuttle run, where you got to run, pick up the blocks, and go back, that's one of those drills where once you get past the center, continuing to accelerate in your sprint is doing you no good, because you got to slow the fuck down to pick the wood up off the ground. This is the same thing. You fucking try to muscle through this drill, and you're going to overdrive your laser. Cool?
There he is.
Okay, so this drill is one that I wanted to recreate here at home because I wanted you guys to see what we saw. Now, I couldn't recreate the letters and numbers because I didn't have spray paint, and I think you guys get an idea for what they were trying to explain there. But for this target transition one, the other big thing, like, so one, we have to understand IDing targets through night vision before we turn lasers on. And the other big thing was like Chuck really emphasized, was that you're limited in your field of view to 40 degrees, 40-ish degrees through the tubes. So when we take these wide transitions from like we were in that video, you're essentially, as Jamie described it, you're essentially, if we were to do this during the daytime, it would be engaging a target, closing your eyes, finding the other target, and then engaging that one. That's what it's like. And so you'll see in this video, I went out in the backyard, I recreated something similar to it, and you'll see that there's a period of time where you don't see either target. So because of that, you are essentially going blind, and you have to be able to pace yourself so that you can land on target, because Jamie said that as you turn, as eyes lead, we got to know the gun is coming right behind. And what would happen is, for a lot of us, myself included, we would overshoot the target and have to come back, or we would undershoot the target and then have to accelerate. And so you create this jerky motion where you come across, stop, and then have to go again. So smoothing that out and trying to be better about sighting that target first before the gun starts to move so that we know that the gun is coming on target versus overshooting it or undershooting it. Now, during the daytime, this is something that people struggle with as it is. When you get under nods, it's even more difficult because you have that limited field of view. Now, somebody who has panos, like I think Chuck was the only, there's two guys out there with panos. So Chuck was one, and then there was one other guy with panos out there. It's just wide enough to where you can almost do it under panos without having to move your head. But for everybody else, we're having to live through the tubes, and as Chuck would say, living life 40 degrees at a time. And that's really what it is. And so that was what that drill was to focus on, okay, target, find the next target, and then engage it. And it's something that I will definitely be working on more here at home, because it is something that you have to consciously practice. And I think the hardest thing for me was just finding that pacing of moving target to target, because when we do it in the daytime, when we can see everything, we want to rip that gun as fast as possible, right? So if we're in one target, we want to rip over as fast as we can to the next one. On this one, it was a little bit difficult because you're just wildly ripping the gun without identifying that target. And one of the things that you can't really see in the video is what they did was they overlapped targets or overlapped lanes of fire. So there would be a target, and then there would be a no-shoot target that was for another group, and then there would be our target. So you would have to see, okay, that's not my target, continue going, see the next target. And as the night went on, as we shot that drill more and more, the white paint on the steel went away, so it became the silver grayish color of just the raw steel. And the other thing too is this fog started to roll in. So you have these contributing factors that would then make it harder to identify targets. So you had to be really conscious and really aware of identifying the target in order to make your hits, because you have foggy that's making things look cloudy. As it's cooling down in the night, the heat from the gas coming out of the guns is starting to fog up. It was fogging up this goggle on my night vision. And then the targets, being able to identify them with the paint was starting to deteriorate from us shooting them so much. So it became harder and harder to positively identify the target as we were transitioning. So we had to be more methodical and be more conscious and more aware of our what our eyes were seeing, and then getting the gun there and making it all time properly. So still, I think there was I took a lot away from this class. It was a ton of good info. I would love to go do another class with Chuck and a dedicated night class with Jamie. I think there's still a ton more info that they have, and I want to get more into that. And as I said before, you'll see more night vision stuff on this channel. I'm working on some stuff with some companies so we can make that happen and have more of that content out for you guys. More Shooter Symposium content will be coming out. If you guys have any questions or there's something you want to see, make sure you leave it in the comments down below. Make sure that like and subscribe. Karate chop that bell so you get notified every time I upload a video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take 879. Let's try this again. All right.